Now, who remembers where we left the Israelites? Who's in charge now? Joshua. That's what I thought. And where are they? Are they in the promised land? Or are they still on the other side of the river? They're on the other side of the river, then I have to get through. So, imagine how many of you have been down to Bishop Park. Okay. One of the parks that's on the river. You know what the Detroit River looks like, okay? Imagine you're in a whole big crowd of people. Hundreds of thousands of people standing there on the banks of the Detroit River looking across at Canada. And you have to get there. You've been trying to get there for 40 years. And before that, your fathers and your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents have been trying to get there for 400 years. And it's just right there. You can see it. But it's on the other side of the river. How are they going to get across? What do you think? Someone is going to divide the waters, except it's not quite like the Red Sea because the waters weren't moving then. It was just an ocean. So divide the waters. Did you say build a boat? We're not going to build a boat. Now, who remembers what God told Moses to have the children of Israel build 40 years before at the bottom of Mount Sinai? Do you remember? They stopped and they built things. What do you think? No, he told them not to build the golden calf. That was bad. The stuff that they were supposed to build was a tent, a tabernacle to worship God that looked a lot like the church. There was an outer court and an inner court, but inside the inner court where the altar table is, they built a box. Do you remember that? Not just a box, but it was called an ark. The Ark of the Covenant. And in the ark went the 10 Commandments on the 2 rocks, right? And a jar with the manna in it. The manna was the bread that God gave them when they were in the desert. And the rod of Aaron, his staff, that budded, that sprouted, that came alive again. All of these things are inside of the ark. It is the ark that shows the proof of God's covenant with the people. It is his presence in their midst. So, here's what they're going to do. Joshua tells the priests, because only the priests can carry the ark. So there's 4 of them, and they've got it. Each one of them holding one pole. Kind of like when we carry the epitafio outside, you know that? Think of that. When the men carry the epitafios, think of the men carrying the epitafios. They're down at the water. They're standing at the edge of the water, and Joshua says, walk in. And everyone looks back and says, you're crazy. I couldn't swim across that without this heavy thing on my shoulders, never mind with it, right? You've seen the men carrying it. It's heavy, right? Joshua says, step in. God will divide the waters for you. So, they do what he says. He's in charge. They step in, and the water goes away. And they step in, and the water goes away. Kind of like the water's alive, and it's moving out of the way. Just like, I'm not going to step on you, but if I were about to, you'd move, right? Right? No, I'm not going to step on you, so you're not going to move at all. But the water moved. The water moved, and the ark went down until it was in the deepest part of the river. And the water moved so that it was dry, which is already a miracle, because if the water moved by itself, there would be mud, normally. But God pulled the mud out as well, so it was dry, and all the people went through while the priests are standing there thinking, wow, this is heavy, but I'm so glad the water is not on top of us, because, good Lord, we'd still be sinking because this is so heavy, right? So they stand there while all the people cross over. I like to think they probably switched out because it's heavy. We know what it is to carry the epitafio, right? And then when they were done, Joshua said, stay there for a bit. And he told one man from each of the 12 tribes, he said, go get a rock. Right? Now you're thinking, what is going on? They went and 12 of them carried a big round rock. And they put them right there in the middle of the dry river. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. They built an altar there. And then they brought the people out, and the water kept on going. And it says that the water by that time had formed a big little lake north upriver because, well, the water couldn't get through. And then it went all dry down below. So then the water kept on going. They were on the other side of the river in Canada, in our analogy. They had crossed the river, and they were ready to take possession of the land, right? Now, what are we supposed to take from this, apart from this is quite the story? Who remembers where Jesus was baptized? Same river, okay? And if Jesus went through the river to enter into our lives, to lead us into salvation, this is in fulfillment of a prophecy when God brought his people through the river, dividing it by the ark of his presence, into the promised land, into the fulfillment of their promises, of his promises to them. So, and do you know what water is in the baptismal font every time we do a baptism? And holy water is the water that Jesus blessed when he was baptized in the Jordan. Same water. Okay? So, we all have gone with the children of Israel through the Jordan River. We all, in being baptized, have entered into the promises of God. And with that in mind, let's stand up and receive those promises, communion, the body and blood of the Lord. Make a line.